That's a great question because what I don't want to do is give a gospel that teaches that it is about you and your individual experience.
Yes.
So I had a conversation recently with a young man who's a youth pastor in his mid 20s, served about 3, 4 years, began to question his faith and had just stepped down as a youth pastor.
Mm.
He came to a conference my father and I were teaching. I got an email ahead of time from the director and he said, "Hey, just want to let you know this guy's coming. He's willing to hear the case that you're going to make." And I
Uh-huh.
said, "Hey, do you think he'd be willing to just during lunch have lunch with me? I'm not trying to debate. I just want to could I answer his questions, hear his story?" He says,
Mhm.
"Sure." So we sit down for an hour and this guy's 25, 26. He just looked like the kind of person you want hanging out with students. He was funny,
Sure.
just an attractive person, thoughtful, loves kids. And for 45 minutes, he's throwing questions at me and I'm doing my best to answer. And I'm just thinking, gosh, I'm supposed to be a professional apologist and I don't feel like I'm really helping this guy.
Uh-huh.
At the very end, he says, "Is there any last advice you would give me?" I
Mm.
said, in my experience, anytime I see somebody disengage their faith, especially in ministry, what I have never found is somebody that had a true experience of God's grace.
Mm.
When was that moment in your life when
Mhm.
you knew you were a sinner and
Mm.
you needed Jesus to forgive you?
Yes.
I will never forget it. He
Mm.
paused and he goes, "I didn't come to Christ because I was a sinner in need of forgiveness.
Mm.
I came to Christ because I was hurting and
Mm.
I was told that Jesus would make me well."
Wow.
That's the danger of an
Mm.
individualistic
Mhm.
gospel. Is if
Yes.
we change the gospel to your needs and your wants and your desires, we're going to distort the gospel.
Yes.
Now, with that said, there's one thing I think we can do, and frankly, nobody did this better than C.S. Lewis in his argument
Mhm.
from desire, is to
Yes.
show that you have deeper desires.
Yes.
You have real desires for beauty, like we see in the abolition of man. You have real
Yeah.
desires for freedom. You have desires for truth. You have desires for love. You have desires
Mm.
for relationships. It's actually the Christian worldview that
Mm.
makes the most sense of those deeper desires.
Yes.
So, in some, I don't want to just take a kid's individualistic, needs and wants and shape the gospel to that. I want to
Right.
show them they have deeper needs and wants, and what
Mm.
they really want in life is only found through the Christian worldview.
No, that's great. That's very, very helpful and insightful. And I know one critique I think of kind of modern American church anyway has been we've have a lot of felt need seminars dealing with all these side issues, but we're not getting to the core issue, as you mentioned, which is we're all sinners in need of a savior, and eventually we need to get to that. And that if we don't get there, we're going to have a kind of false conversion in a sense when people don't really
That's right.
have never really met Jesus. So thank you for that. It's
Hey,
very,
you know
very
what?
helpful.
Let me cut in and give you a line that I remember my dad shared this many years
Yeah.
ago. He said, "The key in ministry is not to meet a felt need, but
Yes.
to make a real need felt."
Fabulous. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's a great one. Uh,